Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this loud and clear: your life is not random. You were not placed here by accident. You are not a mistake. You are a walking, breathing answer to a divine problem in the earth. But the truth is, most people die full of potential, full of ideas, full of callings they never answered because they never asked the right questions. You were never meant to simply exist. You were designed with a specific purpose in mind. The very fact that you are alive in this moment, breathing, thinking, and reading these words is evidence that you are not here by accident. Purpose is not something you find outside yourself. It is embedded deep within you. Every flaw, every failure, and every fight you've ever had to endure was shaping you into the person you needed to become in order to fulfill that purpose. You were not just born, you were sent. You are not the result of coincidence. You are the result of intentional design. You are not a mistake, even if you were born in what seemed like a mistake. The conditions of your birth do not define the capacity of your destiny. Some people come into the world through chaos, through rejection, through broken homes. But that does not diminish their assignment. If anything, it sharpens it. What looks like adversity is often training. You were being equipped to carry weight others couldn't handle. That pain you've experienced, those seasons of silence, the moments where you felt unseen, all of it was preparation, not punishment. Many people spend their lives trying to imitate someone else, thinking that if they can copy success, they'll find significance. But identity can't be duplicated. Your uniqueness is your advantage. The solution you carry is something no one else can deliver in the exact way you can. You've been through experiences that gave you insight, perspective, and wisdom that no textbook or seminar could ever teach. And those very experiences are often the seeds of your assignment. What you've survived is a clue to what you're supposed to solve. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authenticity. It needs the unfiltered, unedited, unapologetic version of who you really are. When you step into your truth, when you start walking like you know you were sent, you give others permission to do the same. You disrupt mediocrity simply by choosing to live on purpose. That decision alone can shift generations. But it starts with accepting the reality that you are not an accident. You are an answer. Even your weaknesses serve a purpose. Your imperfections keep you humble. Your scars make you relatable. And your honesty makes you powerful. People aren't transformed by your perfection. They're impacted by your transparency. You become a bridge to breakthrough when you stop hiding your story and start owning it. The broken places in your life become strongholds of wisdom when you allow them to be used. Nothing you've been through has been wasted, not one moment. There is someone on the other side of your obedience, someone whose freedom is connected to your voice, your business, your creativity, your leadership. When you delay, they stay stuck. When you second guess, they suffer. When you withhold, they wander. That's how serious your purpose is. You are the solution to a cry that someone has been releasing in silence, hoping that someone like you would rise and take their place in the battle. This is bigger than you. When you start to see yourself as a solution, you stop shrinking in rooms where you were meant to lead. You stop apologizing for your greatness and start taking up space with intention. You recognize that your gifts were not given to be hidden. They were meant to shine. And not for self, glory, but because someone needs the light. Solutions don't hide. They show up. They confront darkness. They bring clarity. They shift atmospheres. Every time you play small, you rob someone of the clarity they've been praying for. Every time you let fear silence you, you let confusion remain in someone else's life. Your presence is meant to disrupt cycles. Your voice is meant to unlock chains. Your actions are meant to model possibility. But none of that can happen until you fully own who you are and what you carry. You cannot be the answer and act like the question. You've been conditioned to seek validation, but when you are a solution, you understand that validation is not required. Assignment is. The people you are called to help don't care about your resume. They care about your results. They care about the freedom you unlock when you step into your lane. They care about the courage you model when you stand tall despite your history. They care about how your yes gives them permission to say yes to. There's a frequency in your life that can only be activated when you stop waiting to be chosen and realize you were already assigned. You were not made to fit in. You were made to answer something. Something that's broken. Something that's hidden. Something that's stuck. And you, in your authenticity, your honesty, your resilience, you are the one who has the key. You don't need to look for it outside of you. It's already within. Most people are not held back by their circumstances. They are imprisoned by their beliefs. It's not what's happening around you that keeps you stuck. It's what's happening within you. Limiting beliefs are invisible chains that wrap around your thinking and restrict your movement before you even try. They whisper lies like, you're not good enough. You'll always struggle. you're too late, or you're not qualified. These thoughts become patterns, and patterns become prisons. The saddest part is many people spend their entire lives calling those chains reality. Limiting beliefs don't show up as obvious lies. They disguise themselves as logic. They wear the mask of practicality, caution, or tradition. This is just how life is. No one in my family has ever done that. People like me don't get those opportunities. These phrases sound reasonable, but they are rooted in fear and disguised as wisdom. They're not true, but they feel safe. And safety is seductive when you've been hurt, rejected, or overlooked. So instead of risking greatness, you settle for comfort, even when it kills your potential slowly. These beliefs are often inherited, not chosen. You didn't decide to think small. You were trained to. Your environment, your upbringing, your culture, even your school system taught you what was possible and what was not. But just because a belief was passed down doesn't mean it has to stay. At some point, you must question the script you've been following. Who told you what was possible for your life? And more importantly, why did you believe them? If the people who shaped your thinking never left the cage, how can they teach you how to fly? The truth is, you can't conquer what you won't confront. You can't break a cycle you're too scared to challenge. Most people stay stuck not because they lack information, but because they lack permission from themselves. They're waiting for someone else to believe in them before they believe in themselves. But belief doesn't begin externally, it begins internally. The first person who has to agree with your future is you. If your mind is not aligned with your mission, your progress will always be short-lived. Every time you allow a limiting belief to go unchecked, it becomes stronger. What you feed grows. The more you repeat the lie, the more you reinforce the pattern, eventually your beliefs start shaping your decisions. You stop applying. You stop speaking. You stop dreaming, not because you're incapable, but because you've convinced yourself it's not worth trying. And before long, you're not even living, you're just existing in survival mode, trapped in a box that was never real to begin with. Freedom begins the moment you start questioning your thoughts. You were not created to be a slave to your mind. You were created to renew it, challenge it, and lead it. Thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not final. You can feel fear and still move. You can doubt and still act. You can struggle and still succeed. The key is to disrupt the pattern. And the pattern can't be disrupted if you keep repeating it with your words, your habits, and your silence. When you begin to dismantle your limiting beliefs, you'll find that most of them are built on outdated information. Old experiences, failed attempts, rejection in your past. These become the evidence you use to predict your future. But your past is not your prophecy. Your future is not limited by what didn't work. Every new season demands a new mindset, and that mindset must be intentionally built. You won't stumble into belief. You have to construct it on purpose. Limiting beliefs often crumble when exposed to truth. That's why reading, mentoring, and coaching are so powerful. They introduce you to new paradigms that shake the lies you've lived with. You hear someone's story, someone who came from worse and made it further, and suddenly the excuses you were married to don't make sense anymore. Someone else's courage can be the catalyst for your shift, but you still have to make the decision to leave the mental prison and walk into the unknown. Every time you choose truth over fear, you take back ground that was stolen from you. Every time you replace "I can't" with "I will figure it out," you punch a hole in the ceiling of limitation. And that decision ripples because your new beliefs don't just impact you. They affect everyone watching you. When you shift, your children shift. When you rise, others rise. When you believe again, you give others permission to dream again. Breaking the cycle doesn't just set you free, it builds a new standard for everyone connected to you. There is power in refusing to repeat what broke you. There is power in looking at your history and deciding it stops with me. You are not your background. You are not your failure. And you are not your fear. You are a builder of new belief systems, a pioneer of new mental patterns, and a chain breaker of generational limitations. The moment you stop agreeing with the lie is the moment the cycle starts to collapse under the weight of your decision. There is a silent thief that robs more dreams than failure ever could: avoidance. It doesn't scream, it doesn't storm in, but it sits quietly in the background while your potential slowly decays. What you avoid doesn't disappear. It multiplies. The longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes in your subconscious. You wake up tired not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're avoiding. Avoidance is mental clutter, and that clutter drains your clarity, your confidence, and your courage. There's a conversation you've needed to have, but you keep pushing it off because you don't want the discomfort. There's a decision that keeps tapping you on the shoulder, but you distract yourself with business to avoid facing it. There's a truth you know deep down, but you bury it under responsibilities, entertainment, or excuses. And every time you delay, the weight gets heavier. What you run from begins to run your life. Your freedom is always found on the other side of what you fear to face. Avoidance creates emotional debt. Just like financial debt, it accrues interest. The longer it goes unpaid, the more it costs you. It costs you peace. It costs you time. It costs you joy. The very thing you refuse to deal with becomes the thing that dictates your decisions. You might look functional on the outside, but internally, you're negotiating with suppressed pain, hidden shame, and silent resentment. And none of that resolves itself. It waits. It festers. It grows in the dark. We avoid what hurts, not realizing that healing doesn't come from hiding. It comes from exposure. Whatever you refuse to confront will eventually confront you, usually at the worst time, in the worst way. The fear you won't face will become the ceiling you can't break. The anger you suppress will leak into your relationships. The trauma you deny will sabotage your progress. You don't escape your past by forgetting it. You escape it by facing it with wisdom and truth. Some people avoid because they think if they don't acknowledge the issue, it can't hurt them anymore. But silence is not safety. Silence is surrender. Avoidance doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. It keeps you emotionally stuck at the age or stage when the pain happened. And until you walk back through that moment, armed with the tools of healing and truth, you will continue to make adult decisions from a wounded child's perspective. You can be grown and still be stuck. What you refuse to face is often the very thing assigned to mature you. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you stop running from your reflection and start studying it. What triggers you is a clue. What angers you is a signal. What you defend with excuses is usually the thing you need to change the most. But none of that awareness can happen as long as you're numbing, distracting, or denying the obvious signs. Avoidance becomes a habit, a lifestyle. You get good at pretending, good at smiling, good at staying busy enough to not feel the sting. But your soul knows. Deep down, something feels off. You're not present, not fully engaged, not fully alive. That's because your true self is being smothered by the weight of your unspoken truths. You can't be powerful and passive at the same time. Confrontation is not conflict. It's clarity. It's choosing truth over comfort and purpose over peacekeeping. Some people don't confront because they don't want to appear weak, but it takes more strength to deal with your truth than to fake your way through life. Avoidance might make you appear composed, but it's a mask that eventually cracks. Real strength is in saying, I need to deal with this, and doing the hard inner work. That's where real power lies. Not in pretending you're fine, but in owning your brokenness so it doesn't own you. There's no perfect moment to confront what's been avoided. The longer you wait for the right time, the deeper the roots grow. The key is not waiting for readiness. The key is choosing honesty, honest reflection, honest emotion, honest intention. Your healing doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you finally decide to stop hiding from yourself. There's no growth in delay. There's no breakthrough in denial. There's no elevation in escape. Avoidance might keep the peace in the short term, but it always steals destiny in the long term. You weren't born to tiptoe around truth. You were born to face it head on. There is power in your willingness to confront. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're tired of carrying the weight of what you were never meant to bury. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of that confrontation, and they are stronger, freer, and more focused than you've ever imagined. Legacy is not built when you die. It's built every day you live. It's not about statues, streets named after you, or your name printed in books. Legacy is about impact, about what changes because you showed up. It's about the lives you touch, the patterns you break, the systems you disrupt, and the courage you inspire. And the truth is, you are building legacy right now, whether you realize it or not. Every choice, every risk, every step either contributes to it or erases from it. The question is not if you are building a legacy. The question is what kind. Bold living is not reckless living. It's intentional. It's rooted in clarity, not chaos. It means you've made peace with who you are and decided that fear will not be the loudest voice in your head. People who live bold don't wait for permission. They recognize that playing it safe is often the most dangerous decision of all. They know that the comfort zone is seductive but deadly. Every bold move you make sends a ripple effect through time, unlocking doors not only for you, but for the generations watching behind you. You build legacy when you take a stand for something bigger than your own convenience. When you speak up for what's right, even when it costs you. When you say no to things that would have kept you liked but not respected. When you prioritize integrity over image. These decisions may not go viral, but they echo in eternity. They shape your children, your circle, your community. People remember the ones who dared, the ones who didn't just talk change, they embodied it. Living bold means refusing to shrink to fit into rooms you've outgrown. It means knowing that you were created to disturb mediocrity and awaken dormant potential in others. It means you don't allow small thinking to silence a big calling. When you live bold, you become a mirror that reflects possibility to everyone around you. Others see your steps and begin to question their own limitations. Your life becomes a permission slip to dream, to speak, to move, to rise. Legacy through bold living is not about being loud. It's about being true. True to your values, your voice, your vision. It means aligning your actions with your assignment. Too many people live according to the expectations of others and then wonder why they feel empty. You cannot build an authentic legacy on borrowed definitions of success. Boldness requires that you define life on your own terms and then walk that definition with conviction, even if no one claps for you. Every time you do something afraid, you add another brick to the foundation of your legacy. When you launch the business, forgive the betrayal, break the generational curse, or tell your story out loud. These are bold acts of legacy. You're not just making decisions for now, you're shaping what will be remembered later. People may forget what you said, but they will not forget what your choices made them feel. Boldness imprints the heart and marks the spirit. You don't need millions of followers to live boldly. Boldness begins in secret. It's in the quiet decision to keep going when you feel like quitting. It's in waking up early to pursue a vision no one else sees. It's in walking away from relationships that dishonor your value. These moments are small in appearance, but massive in meaning. They are the hidden sacrifices that build legacies that last long after applause fades and crowds disappear. A legacy isn't just about inheritance. It's about identity. When you live bold, you give others language for who they are. You demonstrate what's possible. You become a blueprint for courage. Think about the people who shifted you, who gave you a glimpse of a higher standard. They probably weren't perfect, but they were bold. And that boldness left a mark. That's what you're doing every time you decide to be fully you without apology or dilution. You don't have to be fearless to live bold. You just have to be faithful. Faithful to the calling, faithful to the vision, faithful to the process. The people who build powerful legacies are not the most talented or the most educated. They are the most committed. They refuse to let fear be their decision maker. They understand that their legacy is worth more than their pride, more than their comfort, more than their need for control. They move even when it's messy. They speak even when it's costly. They lead even when it's lonely. The future doesn't remember the silent. It remembers the ones who chose truth over popularity, growth over comfort, and legacy over ego. Your bold living is not just about you. It's about every soul connected to your yes. Someone is waiting for your courage to become contagious. Someone is waiting for your fire to ignite theirs. Someone is waiting for your example to show them what's possible beyond fear. That's the weight and wonder of legacy. It's not just lived, it's multiplied